As I don't even know where to start, gentlemen. What a win.
Man,
Yeah.
A season-saving win for Rutgers over Michigan State. We're all in the house. Mike, you weren't scheduled to be here about an hour ago.
yeah, I made an exception for this game. I just have a hard time not being a miserable piece of shit after losses,
I
so I'm
hear
not
you.
going to add a
I
whole
don't
lot
blame you. I don't blame you.
when I'm on here and just being, totally defeatist. But I'm here. We won. Not a fair weather fan. I just like to kind of think and ruminate a bit before I start spewing shit out.
Well, it all worked out. And this is actually I'm gonna throw the play up here. This is the play that got it all going. This block, this not block. It wasn't even a block.
Just hit him in the face, in the hands, actually.
This was we're just gonna drop the ball and hand Rutgers a touchdown on a punt. Wow. And did you guys think that that was going to change everything?
It did feel like the momentum had switched at that point because it was so hard for them to move the ball all game. They were taking 3 the first half. They missed a field goal. They didn't really, how many times did we get down like 3rd and goal from like the 4 and we just couldn't punch it in? It just really felt like we needed some, quick scores in order to stay alive. And that's surely what we did. You know what I mean? Like the very next kickoff, we get a lucky bounce, for lack of a better term, because they clearly weren't. It was clear when we were talking to the Michigan State beat guy that this was not a very high IQ football team in terms of committing penalties, turnovers, whatnot. And like you have to field the ball. You have to catch the ball on kickoff. You could call for a fair catch wherever you want, but you can't let it hit the ground. And they let it hit the ground. Thomas Mke made one of the best plays of the year, jumping up in the air and somehow making contact and coming down with the ball at the same time to set up Rutgers' possession from the 21. And then right away, it's very similar to the Virginia Tech game. We got that turnover, and the very next play, Monangai scores a touchdown. We're very much a quick score after a turnover type team. We can't really seem to put together these long methodical drives where we score a touchdown like Michigan State did in the first half, at least for the first score. But yeah, it did feel like momentum had shifted, but it shifted almost immediately because we scored again right away.
Yeah, they didn't give us time to answer that question, Richie, because it was answering for us how quickly things turned around.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I was f-bombing this team at the beginning of the first half. I'm like, geez, here we go again. Like typical Rutgers, backup quarterback comes in, starts. And the funny part is, and I sent our group chat too. I was like, hey, like, yeah, remember how Greg said on Monday this kid was the more pocket passer of the two, and then he goes and runs for like 60 yards in a touchdown, and it's like, all right, well, I don't know what happened there, but and all of a sudden, it's just I don't know what happened that 3rd, 4th quarter. It's just the defense continues to step up time after time again. That Amonkwa play, I don't even know what to say on that. That's got to be like a Sports Center top 10, right? At least or something like that. I feel like football teams are gonna be talking about that for quite some time now, just because it's such an amazing kickoff play. Like, and the play before that you just get some luck on your side too, and the punter just muffs the punt or muffs the snap, and it hits him in the hands, hits him in the face mask, he drops it, and Aaron Young of all people runs in with the ball. So then you get 2 running backs to score on the day, and we didn't talk enough about Kyle Monangai, who, geez, man, I don't know what happened to this kid this offseason, but who he trained with, it has to be Pacheco, because that just looks like Pacheco out there pretty much with his running style. But 24 for 148 and a touchdown is just another incredible game from him.
But the thing was,
I feel like that all came in the second half too.
Yes, that's what I was about to say, is that there was a point where it was when things weren't going well before that punt situation that you looked at the stats and they were getting completely dominated at the line of scrimmage. The running game against our running game, we were doing nothing. And then all of a sudden, you look up like 15 minutes later, Monangai's got 134 yards. It's it was amazing how they and the physicalness of what of how he ran and really how the team played on defense and offense really is what defined that comeback too. They really came after Michigan State as soon as they got the gift.
Yeah, I'm looking now. 13 for 31 in the first half on running, and then 24 for 83 in the second. Complete flip flop. And that's just Greg Schiano's MO of football. Like, just run it up, get 3 yards, 3 yards, 3 yards, and eventually you're gonna break out. It's the keep chopping method, actually. Eventually, if you keep chopping at that same spot in that tree, eventually you're gonna hear tick, and that's it. And the funny part is the post game. I don't know if you guys listened on TV or on the radio or anything like that, but I forget who they interviewed. I think it was Monongai in the interview, and he was just like, what'd you think about today's game? We just kept chopping, chop, 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 and he said chopped every other word, and I'm not even like literally. Like usually it's like once every sentence. It was every other word was chopped, and it was like that's just the epitome of a Rutgers football team under Greg Schiano.
That's it. He's got him brainwashed in a positive way.
Yeah.
You guys want to take a guess on how many rushing yards Kyle Monongai had in the fourth quarter?
Well, how many did he have total?
He had 148 total. Guess how many he had in the fourth quarter?
124, I'll say.
That's probably like 85, 90.
He had 107, so you guys split it basically down the middle. But he had
Okay.
over 100 yards in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
That is he has that second wind that, Ray Rice had this, but Ray Rice had more of a first wind, so I don't want to say it that much. But you could just tell guys do not want to meet Kyle Monongai in the hole when it's fourth quarter, when you're tired, when you're, the game's, drawn on, it's wet. I'm sure Michigan State was kind of counting their chickens there. But that was just, I don't know. I can't remember the last time Rutgers has been in a game like this. We can probably count on two hands the amount of times this has happened the opposite direction. But unreal finish to this game. And it truly was a game of two halves, because I have a bunch of notes from the first half, and it almost feels like it was watching a totally different program, because the referees were so awful in the first half.
Oh no.
I cannot believe, especially let's just go over like a few of the notes I have here. So the most obvious, the phantom targeting on Tyreen Powell.
Yeah,
especially when you juxtapose that to the Hunter Roller targeting call that was overturned last week, where he speared himself into the back of Gavin's head.
Yes.
And they overturned it after a discussion, which, in my opinion, I'll get my tinfoil hat out here, but Wisconsin's got a big game this week against Iowa, and if that call would have held up, Hunter Roller's out for the first half of the next game. So he's not going to play the first half against Iowa, and so they overturned that. And now you got Tyreen Powell, arguably Rutgers' best defender, one of the best at least, leading tackler, just totally takes the soul away from the running back of Michigan State. And then they do a Zapruder film analysis of it and determine that he the way that they talked about it on the broadcast was well, between the forehead and the eyebrow, that's fine, but anything above that, if there's any crowning at all, it's what are you even talking about? Just watch the play in full speed. Does that look like he led with his head? It doesn't. At some point, was there helmet-to-helmet contact? Yes, but it wasn't like he was driving his helmet into the other guy's helmet. That is a tackle that 5 years ago you were just not even thinking about. But now, because there's all these ridiculous targeting rules, you have to literally frame by frame, you're looking at a ball down the line in a baseball game, or a double toe tap in the NFL. You shouldn't be using that much granularity with reviews for penalties in college football. That is total fucking bullshit. I just need to get that out there, because that was the most fired up I've been in a while. That they cut away from commercial, and you get a fourth down stop, and the next thing you know, they have the ball again, and your best player's out of the goddamn game.
Yes.
Yeah. That's absolutely insane. You saw it, Mike, actually before I did, but I posted it all over social media, and even former NFL players TJ Ward's on our Instagram account commenting on it, saying this is just soft, this is ridiculous, this is baby football, what are we doing? And it kind of is. It's at this point, what is targeting and what isn't? Either call everything or call nothing, because there's just, you can't be a two-end street. Like you said, last week was pretty bad and they picked it up. This week, and it's there was nothing, and then they called it. So what is the exact ruling here?
Yeah, and Gavin couldn't even walk after he was hit. I'm shocked he stayed in the game last week, but that should tell you as a referee, oh crap, this was, possibly a concussion, and you only get a concussion from contact to the head. So what do you think? Some, Cupid's arrow shot him in the middle of the tackle and hit him in the back of the head. Like, give me a break.
Yep. Well, that's lack of respect that the program is getting and still getting. Matter of fact, at the end of the game yesterday in the press conference, I don't know if you guys noticed that, how much, maybe you guys talked about it, but how much he kept like kind of referencing the fact that Wisconsin was coming off a bye. And then the fact that we had to play Michigan State this week off a bye. And it's like, oh, wait a second. So we have 2 games against teams off byes, and then who do we play after a bye? Ohio State. Oh, so I guess instead of losing by 40, we'll lose by 30. Is that supposed to give us some sort of advantage? Like, we don't want an advantage against Ohio State coming after a bye. That doesn't do us any good. So I'm getting sick and tired of getting screwed by the refs
after this week too. So it's not even like we have. Ohio State's also going to be coming off a bye. They have a bye. They're not playing next week, so it's like whatever advantage that you typically have baked in coming off a bye is totally negated.
Wow.
It's insane.
Three byes. 3 teams off byes get to play us this year.
In a row, consecutively.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Kind of crazy. I did some looking just through.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed. They are not coming off bye. I misread this. They're playing at Wisconsin next week. Then they're playing Rutgers the following week. My bad.
Yeah. I was gonna say I was looking through it before the schedule earlier this week after Greg said it, and I don't think there's another Big Ten team that plays back-to-back teams with bye weeks. There's just no other team in the conference that does that. There's like some that get like 1 team, but that's about it. Mm-hmm. Like 2 in a row. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so that kind of disrespect is getting old. Want to remind everybody, you've got the chat. If you want to let us know what's on your mind, just get it off your chest, the good and the bad. And we appreciate all the thanks and the donations and all that kind of stuff as well here on the program.
Shit. We got a lot of people in here already. A couple donations. I guess the first things first, Greg. Someone said to turn up your mic a little bit if you can.
Okay, let me turn off my. Let's see.
We'll start with that.
Yeah, that's a good way to start.
Yeah, no, that would definitely help. After that, our resident fan P. Mata Poisette with another donation. Shout out to you. I think that's 3 weeks in a row, man. I love that. Yeah. Appreciate that. And then we got Delmarva Fishing, who I think donated last week too, but he's
donated multiple times. Yep.
Right, yeah, I see another donator. He said, I was watching the game in the desert in El Paso on my phone, screaming like John Cusack when that girl left him in High Fidelity. Upstream red team, have some border mission money. Here you go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, El Paso, man. Rutgers Nation, nationwide.
I do want to send a couple other shout outs. Number one, a giant fuck you to Jack Mac once again. Just trying to stomp on our graves before we're even dead, saying, fans deserve better than Rutgers. And then basically immediately Rutgers has that massive comeback. So I want to say this specifically to Jack Mac. Please just keep riding our dick. Continue the hate. Continue to just be like a total loser, because every time your hate flows out of your mouth or flows out of your fingers into the ether against Rutgers, good things happen to Rutgers. So just keep it up, because we're thriving on your energy right now. I want to totally exercise the referee demon, because I have a few more things that I think need to get brought up before we actually talk about the game. There was a face mask that was clearly not called on a Gavin Wimsatt run. Flip Dixon got called for roughing the passer when he was blocked into the quarterback. He got literally thrown to the ground by the offensive lineman, and he skid into the quarterback. They called that roughing the passer. There was that clear holding call on Michigan State on West Bailey that it's rare that the announcers talk about plays that Rutgers should, or calls Rutgers should get, but they kept calling that. And it seemed like they got a DPI basically anytime in the first half a ball was thrown downfield that was even uncatchable or catchable. There was a play in the third quarter, I believe, where it was that flea flicker, that weird double pass back, where they threw into the end zone, and I think it was Carr on Michigan State just pushes Robert Longerbeam in the back, throws him 3 yards forward. How is that not offensive pass interference? Robert Longerbeam could have made a play on that ball.
Yeah, and then the next play they hit it. Yeah. Yep. Matter of fact, Rogers, that was the one that Rogers was going up, and he was the one that was getting held. He was the one that was getting pushed, and they call a penalty on him. So
it seems like all you had to do was underthrow a deep ball, and it's oh, there we go. Got him.
Those are the ones that you just can't stand when you give the offense yardage and you give them something they don't deserve. Sort of like what happened a few weeks ago, in that Jets-Chief game. Mahomes is just chucking the ball up. He's about to get sacked. He's just trying to chuck the ball up. The ball was underthrown, and they called the penalty. You can't do that. You can't give the offense yardage and penalize the defense when they're making plays.
Yeah, and then the clear, like I know you said before, Mike, but the clear lack of the offensive pass interference on longer beam was just, I'm rewatching it again over and over again, and it's just like, dude, man, Foley pushes, like Foley extends his arms out. It's like, yo, get out of here. Like, you're not catching it if I'm not catching it. It's like nothing at all. Like,
nothing. Let's go back to the huddle. Is my mic better, by the way? Let me know. I raised my volume.
It sounds good on
my
end, so it should work, I think.
So, all right, let's tell you what. Let's go run through this game from the beginning. At Michigan State, for the second straight week, we give up a touchdown drive in the first drive. Melton gets burned. It's like they picked on Melton on that drive. Let's pick on Max Melton, and he gave up that first pass, I believe, and then they gave up the touchdown. And it didn't look good early because Michigan State just they dominated us on the line of scrimmage on that drive. And the Max Melton season, the bad Max Melton season continues.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what it is. We were talking about it in our group chat, and I know there's a lot of hype about him in the preseason. I know PFF, I believe, had him top 5 NFL draft pick corner.
Oh, please.
That's not happening anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, he had some struggles again, and it continues to be the Robert Longbeen has been pretty damn good. Minus he had a couple interesting ones today. Some that probably shouldn't have been called, some that were called, but it's just I don't get Max Melton and what's going on with him. Like I don't know if it's like, is he just confidence at this point? Are you just losing it a little bit? I really don't know. Like it's hard to say because they still trot him out there each week, but I don't know. It's a tough one.
So after that, we go down, we get a field goal, and the play. Here's the thing that I noticed. Now Strong did come in. I think it was the second series, but once again he wasn't there on the first series. We get down to the goal line, and he really should be out there every time we're down inside the 10-yard line, inside in that area, because we have such a hard time getting in the end zone through the passing game. Anyway,
Richie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think Strong actually started today.
Yeah, I believe Strong got the start.
Did he?
Yeah,
I didn't see him out there a whole lot. Maybe he must have jumped off the field a few times then. Then I didn't notice him.
I don't know. I have to go back and check. But I swear I thought he started, but I could be wrong on that. Either way, he played significant snaps, so he basically was.
Yeah, because I saw him in the second drive. I didn't notice him in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the drive stalled again, and they get a field goal. So it's 7-3. Strong did come in, or at least he was in. He got that 25-yard completion, and Dremel had another nice game. I mean, Dremel is really having a big season. Did you guys expect Dremel to have a season like this? I know he's not lighting up the stats, but we're not a passing team.
Someone said on our boards he's going to lead the team in targets and receptions this year, but I don't know who that smart guy was. But he might be in this chat for all we know. But yeah, no, Dremel's been wide receiver 1 all camp, and we hinted at it. It's Whipsit's favorite weapon by far. I know I said wide receiver 1, and people are going to be like, well, he's technically not wide receiver 1. That's Jaquay Jackson. Well, whatever you want to call him. He's getting the most targets and the most receptions.
Yeah.
So it's basically wide receiver 1.
He is.
So yeah, it's definitely him. He's just been phenomenal this year, and people questioned him starting over Rashad Rochelle, and I don't know if we'll see Rashad Rochelle again. Yeah. So
I cannot believe they still trotted him out, especially in a day like today, because he's clearly not confident out there because he calls fair catches sometimes when there's not a guy within 15 yards of him.
Yeah.
And then other basically every other time he's calling a fair catch, and what did you think was going to happen in the wettest game I can remember Rutgers playing in like a decade? He was, I don't know. I was surprised it didn't happen earlier in the game, honestly.
Do we know who came in for him? Because someone else caught the fair catch
I think it was number 41, whoever that is. And
Yeah, which would be Jordan Kinsler, which makes more sense because that's a running back. I swore it said 47, and that would be Kier Price, and that just no.
I can't imagine it was actually Kier Price, because
You
Kier Price
cannot-
started as a D lineman, now as a tight end. You don't put a guy like him back to
tight end again.
yeah.
Like it's no, that just doesn't make sense. The other thing I don't think enough people are talking about, if Jay Patel is 2 of 2 on field goals, and I know it's a long field goal, you're going to trot out Jude?
Well, also, remember opening game? Was it opening game? I think it was opening game against Northwestern. He trotted him out there for a 52-yarder, and he nailed it.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, why are you doing this? I get it. Like Jay Patel, trust me, we've seen him in camp. He doesn't have the strongest leg in the world, but he's definitely more accurate than Jude. And I know they were contemplating it in camp about potentially doing a 2-kicker system because Jude had the stronger leg. But if Jay Patel's 2 of 2, just hit a 47-yarder, I'm trotting him out there again. I'm giving the kid all the confidence in the world. I'm like, hey, you go do it, man. I know I got confidence in you.
Well, at least they tried it once and it didn't work. So we'll see what they do the next time around. You would imagine they'd give Patel a chance then after it didn't work the first time. By the way, on that second drive, when Wimsatt took that 12-yard loss, Sutton got injured. I think we all.
Everyone held their breath.
Yeah. It was good to see him back. Anyway, he hits Dremel for about 17 on the next play. And then they don't call the targeting on the Michigan State player, which is debatable, especially after what happened to us a little bit later on. And that's when we kicked that 47-yard field goal. It's 7-6. And then when they came back down, then all the madness kind of started. You're talking about, I mean, Dixon had that personal foul you guys talked about. And then we had press interference and the personal foul in the same play. But then we had the takeaway, the strip by Longerbeam. That was a really nice play. I mean, that was awesome.
That was the ultimate ball don't lie moment, because that was right after the Tyreen Powell ejection. And I think the next offensive play, we missed a tackle. The guy pirouettes, peels himself off, and then immediately meets Robert Longerbeam in the middle of the field. And Robert Longerbeam takes his lunch money away.
All right. So before we go any further, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike.
Very good.
It was Dremel on the punt return, which makes more sense because we did see him. So they just gave him a different jersey because Shaquan Loyal's on punt return as well.
Oh, okay.
So they threw a blank 47 over him and just threw him out there. Also, shout out to Matt Werbling. Fucking $50 donation. Nice, man.
Hey,
wow.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you very much.
He said, does Powell miss the first half next week? I don't believe so. I think
he doesn't, because
it was first half.
First half.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
and then,
go ahead.
No, we got one more real quick. €5. I don't even know you could do that.
Does that work?
Yeah, watching from Berlin, Germany, Rutgers Worldwide.
Berlin.
Yeah, so thank you, Captain Picard.
Okay, awesome.
So we are a worldwide podcast now. Look at that.
By the way, I want to thank, I forget who it was. Remember when we signed off last week, Richie? And I did put a thank you in there in the chat because I mentioned how I got screwed by having to deal with Peacock. And I had to become a 1-month subscriber on Peacock to watch that crappy broadcast.
Didn't we all?
And somebody donated $5 and said, here's your $5 back. So
you could have watched our live stream there.
I wish I knew. You guys should have told me. You should have sent me a link or something. That would have been better.
We were tweeting it out, but send it to you directly next time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so then Longerbeam gets the takeaway. And by the way, we had the 4th and 1, and we finally saw Brown getting a carry on a short yardage situation. And I had to pencil that in there because that was
I
nice
was borderline shocked that it was like a 4th and 1. They have Sam Brown back there. Like, why not have the guy who's been so reliable all season in those short yardage situations in Kyle Monongai? He thankfully got the first down, so this doesn't have to be like a Monday morning quarterback situation here, but I don't know. I get you're trying to – it wasn't even like a hurry-up call either. I don't know.
No. Very odd.
And then we had the
incomplete.
the 53-yard miss on that drive. Pretty much we just talked about that.
Yeah.
a little bit later on came the Ty Powell ejection on 4th and 1 at the Rutgers 41. And here was what I don't have the announcer's call, but basically the announcer said phenomenal hit, phenomenal play, great hit before he went to a break. All the same thing. We all felt the same. I mean, we felt the same exact way the announcer felt. And then they had to meticulously explain why it was targeting. So
they took, and the funny thing about that is usually they'll just like have, you know, whoever it is like in their main studio call in and like explain what's happening. They went on to talk about that Powell ejection for 2 to 3 minutes after the play. Like they had out of the break, they were talking about that through like the entire rest of the series for Michigan State. So you could tell like they felt the need to like really over explain that situation and maybe to like talk about how probably shouldn't have been called. But yeah.
Remember in the beginning of the season when Rutgers was getting a lot of calls and they were getting even the officials that were coming, they must have reversed like 3 calls that went our way. And we mentioned it, said, we're getting some breaks, we're getting the calls, and we should just take it because sooner or later, this doesn't last. The officiating is just not good enough, and now we're starting to see it the last few games. And I don't know, I don't know if it's a coincidence that it's all of a sudden Big Ten play. Now we're getting screwed by the officials. We had good quality officiating that worked our way in non-conference games, but now we're in Big Ten play and we're getting the shaft. Anyway, the next play after the Powell ejection, we see Max Melton get beat and miss a tackle. Thank goodness, because Longerbeam comes up and smacks the dude and recovers the fumble himself, and that was awesome. It was almost like you could tell they were just pissed about what had just happened, and they took it out on the receiver.
Yeah.
Well, don't lie, karmic rebalancing there. It's unfortunate it didn't result in scoring, but it seems to work out sometimes when you know you've been wronged.
And then the craziness continued because Wimsatt threw a poor throw, a high throw. What else is new? To Strong. Strong had dropped the ball in the previous, if you recall, and then this one, another high throw, led to an interception. Didn't matter, they stopped him. But then Rochelle muffed a punt and led to the 14-6, the touchdown run by the quarterback. The second straight week. I mean, they've found something on our defense with these quarterbacks. It's annoying watching guys who are not necessarily the most mobile quarterbacks in the world gain like 30, 40, 50 yards and a touchdown. We can't allow that.
Yeah, I don't know which linebacker is supposed to be like watching him or something, but I know he's not the most mobile kid in the world, or wasn't at least going into this game. But he had a pretty solid day running the ball overall. So it's like, gotta watch out for that stuff. And I don't know what it is about backup quarterbacks. Backup quarterbacks have Rutgers' number for some reason, and they just tend to shine.
I thought they ran the ball really well against us in the first half.
Yeah.
In general, like they were just kind of like getting to the second level, seemingly at ease. Like the first drive, especially, they totally ran the ball all over us. They seemingly did whatever they wanted to. Thankfully, Rutgers started to lock down after that, but it felt like after the first half ended, it felt like, one, we're letting this game go. We're giving this game away. 2, like the weather's not going to change. It's only going to get worse. It's only going to be more miserable in the second half for this team, for a team that can't move the ball. This is kind of the recipe that Rutgers has to use to win games. They have to get a lot of turnovers. They have to get set up with short fields. And thankfully that ended up happening in the second half because it was kind of the yin to the yang of the first half. We were giving the ball away in, our own territory, setting up short fields. They, got a few lucky bounces, where in the second half we got all the lucky bounces. I mean, this game was fairly evenly matched. It's just Rutgers at the end of the day was grittier and was able to kind of concentrate a little bit longer than Michigan State was.
Yeah. Both teams were ugly in the first half. Michigan State was ugly in the second half. And that's what did it, because what did we talk about before we went on the air? What was it? 6 flags and 3 turnovers for Rutgers in the first half. No turnovers, no flags in the second half. So there's your game right there. By the way, after that touchdown, they go up 14-6. Wimsatt throws another interception. leads to a field goal at 17-6, and I don't know, it almost felt like when Michigan State got the ball in the second half and went right down the field and scored, it was almost like the interception had just happened. Because, I don't know, it just felt to me that the team just, not they gave up, but it just didn't feel like they were really into it, or I don't know what it was. They were just really lackadaisical on that first drive in the second half.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the weather shifting and everything already being down. What was it, 20-6? And then just the weather shifting to even a shittier level of rain, and it just started downpouring, and it's just kind of like everything's just falling apart at once, and it looked ugly too. It just punt and gave up another touchdown, and I think it was another touchdown too, right?
So the ultimate butterfly effect moment in this game. So on the punt that the guy just let it slide through his hands and we recovered in the end zone. If you remember, they were re-punting because on the first punt, they punted and had illegal formation. They had 4 men in the backfield. That was a bad punt. We could have taken over from our own 40-yard line if we took the penalty and added the 5 yards to the end of the kick. Schiano, brilliant move by him, probably thought, we're going to go for the all-out block, or we're going to try to make something happen here. Mm-hmm. Instead of taking the yardage, he takes the re-kick. If he doesn't take the re-kick, we don't win this game.
Probably not.
Kudos to Greg Schiano.
Yep, absolutely. Good call out. Because it happened so quickly from the muff punt to the interception. It led to a field goal, and then they get the ball in the second half and go right down the field. It was just like that. The only saving grace was that it was the beginning of the second half, basically. Not that the rest of the third quarter mattered. I mean, nobody did anything up until the punter fumbled and Aaron Young scored a touchdown.
Yeah,
so we have a lot of donations.
Yeah, I was going to say a quick update on the chat. Shout out Matt Werwin. I think he already donated actually, but with another $10. He said, "Does this win help on the recruiting path?" He said we can answer it later, so we're going to push that one down the lane a little bit. Adori Lashes with another $50 donation. Awesome content. Love listening to y'all. Much better than thinking all these similar thoughts to myself all the time. Yes, it is much better to talk to people than talk to yourself. I think we can all agree there. And then P. Mata Poisette again with a solid, nice little. I see what you did there with the 1766 donation. I said upstream from Arizona. Matthew Werble motivates me. Show a few more cool highlights from the game, please. So I think actually we're coming up to that, aren't we? We're pretty close to the next score, aren't we? From Rutgers' perspective.
Actually, you know what? For whatever reason, they don't have it.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know what they have? They have the 2-point conversion. I'm like, how do you show? You showed the punt that we just opened with. The next one they show is the 2-point conversion.
It's so weird.
I know. I couldn't find it. I was like, all right, I guess maybe I got to go somewhere else to find the touchdown.
You don't have that on the Rutgers Rivals Twitter account? It seems like you have basically every big play.
Yeah, I tried to get that, but you know what it was? One of the plays, it was lagging pretty bad. Was this the Washington? No, I got the Washington touchdown.
Yeah, you got the Washington one. You got all the touchdowns on your Twitter feed.
I was gonna say, I thought I had them all.
Yeah, so we could show all the touchdowns.
Yeah, if you have it.
This was the punt block, right? Or not punt block. I keep saying punt block, even though it wasn't a punt block.
Right? Yeah, what is that called? It's a fumble. That's all that is. Yeah. Or is it? Yeah.
I just DM'd it to you, Greg, so you can pop it up.
Oh, okay. Let's see. There it is. Okay. Anyway, we don't want to bore everybody while I look for this. I mean, do you think that we're getting these donations because it wasn't because Rutgers covered, because they didn't. Mike knows that better than anyone.
Ouch.
I think it's the win. It's always the wins. The wins at these shows. We had 70 some people at the high point again after the Michigan game. Mm-hmm. We got 235 right now. It's all about winning, and this is what we've talked about. We can tie this into recruiting. We can tie this into fan interest. Rich, what does the traffic spikes look like on the website anytime Rutgers wins versus loses?
Oh, I mean, of course. Well, I mean, to be fair, we do have a pretty good track record of.
You do. It's like a relative thing, though.
Yeah. When they win, obviously, it's 10 times more fun. Everyone's excited. there's like 10 more threads, and they're all like, oh my God, what if we do this next week? What if we do that next week? This guy's already prepping his tailgating menu for next week. This one's like, what's the weather? We need to know the weather for next Saturday. We might go out to Indiana. Like, is it worth it? Ever been? Who's been? And all that craziness. But when it's not that, it's like when it's a loss, it's like completely like, holy shit, like yikes.
Yeah.
All right, so I have the highlight of the touchdown. So here's the touchdown. Well, let me get it back going from the beginning.
Okay. Hey, does that sound better, Lee? I think my mic just went a little.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Haywire. Yeah, they said my mic went a little haywire there for a sec. I think
that wasn't your mic. That was the Twitter thing. When I started it, the sound just blasted.
Gotcha.
I had to mute it.
Yeah.
So anyway, here's the touchdown. And what was interesting, and the announcer, how funny was that? The announcer was like, throw the ball. Aaron Young was wide open, and he decided to throw the harder pass to Washington in the corner of the end zone for the touchdown. I thought that was funny. Because I could say it's funny because we scored a touchdown.
I think Gavin had probably 4 to 5 of his best 10 throws of the year in this game.
He did, and he had like 4 or 5 of his worst. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a weird game for Gavin Wimsatt.
Yes.
I think the first half, everyone was like, dude, bench him.
So the first quarter, in my opinion, the first quarter of this game was Gavin's best quarter he's had as a Scarlet Knight. He was just throwing dimes. The first play of the game was that play. He ripped the dart down the seam to Dremel. The same exact play he missed on last week. Perfect throw. He has that perfect throw to Dremel again on the sideline to close out the quarter. Like I want to say he was like 4 for 5 with like 2 of those throws being amazing passes to start the game. And then he kind of just started falling apart. And some of them weren't his fault. Like Strong had back-to-back drops. The one drop, he didn't even have a guy near him. And then the next drop led to an interception.
The ball was thrown a little high, but you do want him to make contact and not get an interception. So I'm okay. Yeah. But you're right.
The wide receivers, what about that one pass from, I guess it was Michigan State's technically, but it bounced off a Michigan State guy, bounced off, was it Longerbeam or Flip Dixon?
Yeah.
I think it was Flip.
That was Flip Dixon, had it in his chest. It would have set us up at like the 30-yard line, and it somehow falls into the lap of the Michigan State tight end, which didn't really matter because that forced the 4th down. That's 50 yards of field position there.
Yes.
Robert Longerbeam dropped a wide open interception too.
Yes.
A missed slant pass.
Yeah, the Dixon one could have been a touchdown too if he would have. He was a little off balance, but could have been. Could have been a pick six.
Matt Wordwin donated another 10. Said the Big Ten's still giving us the shaft. He also said it looked like he got the bet at plus 550 money line at the end of the third quarter. It's pretty good.
Wow,
it's pretty good.
I was thinking about doing a live bet and I didn't.
Smart.
I do want to touch on his does this help for recruiting thing real quick because
I
don't necessarily think this specific game helps with recruiting, but making a bowl game this year definitely does. And this game was so important to making a bowl game. So in that sense, it's huge, but it's not because, of the way we won. It's not because, of the opponent. It's because Rutgers is now in a collision course with 6 wins next week, going into Bloomington to play Indiana, who's terrible. That if you don't, this is like the whole season. Because I could see the momentum carrying us to maybe 7 wins. Maybe you sneak one out against Iowa because they're bad too.
Yeah.
But you don't want the pressure to be on week, 12 again this year where you're playing, you're overmatched by Maryland again, and you need that win to make a bowl game. You want to have that locked up by, as soon as possible, and that could be next week.
It better be.
The most winnable game left on the schedule is next week.
And if I told you back in, I don't know, August that Rutgers will get a bowl game by October 21st, would you not just sign up for that? No questions asked?
You would slam the accept button on that trade.
Yeah. So.
But the thing was, when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season, we kind of figured if they were going to be a bowl team that they might have to.
Yep.
Because we really didn't think that we were going to have a shot against any team except maybe Maryland. So.
Well, now it looks like the Michigan State thing obviously happened, and now they pull that one off. No one saw that one coming. So I will defend my prediction before the season a little bit because that would make 5 or 6. I forget. I think they make 5 because I had them losing to Virginia Tech technically, but I didn't realize Virginia Tech's that fucking bad.
Yeah.
So that would be 6 right there. Weird, different, little bit of a different setup now, but you should be able to get it next weekend against Indiana. I don't see any reason why. Don't get me wrong; they played competitive against Michigan in the first half, but I just still think they're probably the worst team in the Big Ten.
They are.
So.
Or Northwestern, but I think Northwestern at least has the win over Minnesota.
Yeah, that's the only reason I have them above Indiana. I think Indiana's just they're god awful.
And Michigan actually has been better on the road this year than at home, so they've kind of struggled. Not struggled, but they've kind of sleptwalked through all of their home games. So I'm not. And Indiana, believe it or not, usually gives them a little bit of trouble over the last few years. They haven't blown out until this year. They haven't blown them out. So
it is a home game for them, and the only thing that worries me is what was it like last year, or the year before? Rutgers had an away game, and it was it Northwestern or was it Indiana where they just got no one saw it coming and they just got completely blown out of the water.
Are you talking about Rutgers got blown out of the water, or Indiana did?
Rutgers, wasn't it Rutgers like 2 years ago or something?
So Rutgers in 21 played at Northwestern and lost 21-7. I think.
Maybe it was that
when I think it was a close spread. I think Rutgers was maybe a 3-point dog. It was it should have been a close game, but
maybe
Rutgers didn't do anything. Yeah. I mean, Rutgers the last time they played in Bloomington, they won 35-3.
Yeah, there were 2 blowouts. One was Rutgers blowing out Indiana in 21. But in 19, it was Indiana blowing out Rutgers 35-0.
Yep.
Yeah, very odd. I forget what game it was, but regardless, I think they should be fine. I just think this is such a bad team.
They went to overtime with Akron.
Hey, Joe Moorhead's decent.
So, yeah. At least they got a win.
Yeah, Indiana State and Akron.
Yeah, 2 wins. So, all right.
Yikes.
Oh, and so here's the go-ahead touchdown. I'll show that. Okay, so this was pretty awesome because this happened right after the crazy kick, and this is on your thread. Yeah, this seemed like the same play call that they had like the drive before. It looks so similar. So and again, where he ran for like about 11 yards, a few plays before they scored, it looked like the same play call because and why not? Because the first time it kind of worked, and this time he just made a couple other guys miss and went in the end zone. That was awesome. What an awesome touchdown run!
Yeah, he's something else. That one little stutter step, not even stutter step, the one little cutback, and that's it, and it's gone. Great block there by Christian Dremel too. A lot of pre-snap motion today, and we didn't really see that last week, which was kind of weird. I don't know why they didn't do it at all last week, but this week they did a ton of it, and it worked out in their favor. Yeah,
the receivers, we never talk about it much, but they did an awesome job at blocking. That's an underrated part of the game that we don't talk about much, which is probably why Washington gets a lot more reps than Strong. If I'm going to think of a reason, if I'm going to give them a reason,
I can't give him that reason. He's just such a better receiver.
I mean, if there was a reason, you saw it the yin and yang of that too, where he had just 2 nice catches and then he drops 2 in a row. One results in an interception. I wonder if it's drop problems that they're not seeing consistency enough with his hands.
Yeah.
But he's clearly a super talented guy. Like he is, without a doubt, a future NFL receiver in my eyes.
Yeah,
once he's played here for 3 more years.
Came in as a safety too. Mohamed Sanu-esque.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds familiar. Coming in when Mohamed Sanu came in early, it was a rarity because he came in. I think he was a 2009, class 2009 high school kid. So that was still. I remember ESPN did a special on Urban Meyer's Florida teams at the time because they were getting guys like Joe Hayden. Like they had half the recruiting class enroll early one year. And it was like a big deal. It's like, well, now this is more of a business. You got to get in. The only way to play early is if you go enroll early. And now like half of all recruiting classes enroll early. But anyway, Sanu was like the first Rutgers early enrollee from what I remember. Because from what I remember, also, he couldn't even play his senior year in high school because he was too old. I think he was like 19 in high school.
Yep.
So Yeah, very similar path.
Speaking of 19-year-olds, I'm just curious on your guys' thoughts on this. There's a little debate going on in the chat, and people are saying like, well, Wimsatt's still developing. He's only 19, and my answer to that's kind of like it's year 3. Like there's not really developing. Like you have to figure it out by now, or I don't know. It's like is this what we're getting out of Wimsatt? Is that it? This is it. This is him. Can he get a little better? Sure, but not a ton.
Yeah. I think he has gotten better with decision making and better with having better awareness, which comes with reps. But he still has the same fundamental problems, which is inaccuracy on like some of the more like foundational elements of Kirk Soraka's offense. Like he can't throw over the middle because he's inaccurate. They throw to the out-breaking routes a lot because if you throw an inaccurate pass on an out-breaking route, it's likely going out of bounds, so it's safe. If you throw an inaccurate pass over the middle, if you sail it high, it's going to the safety.
That's what happened.
If it's too short, it's going to the linebacker. If it's too long, it's going to the other cornerback. Like there's just a lot of – it's like playing Battleship. If you might not hit your ship, but you might hit another ship. If you make if you try and shoot for a ship on the A column, you're not going to hit anything if you go to the outside because there's no ships there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Battleship reference. Man, I haven't thought about that game in years.
It's a great game. I still play it every once in a while.
Yeah. Here's an example, okay? Michigan State, their quarterback today. What is he? 4-star recruit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Getting what? First start?
First ever start.
First ever start. And did Wimsatt ever look like that early in his career? No. There's the example we're talking about. That took that kid one start to look like he's a 4-star recruit, that in a couple of years, he might be a really good player. We're waiting 3 years for Gavin to play like that. Because it's not like the kid had an awesome game, but for a freshman, he played well. So
it's so tough, too, because like everyone's immediate fix is like, hey, just bring in a transfer. Like you bring in a transfer, number one, you're going to piss off Gavin. Number two, it's like what kind of transfer is going to – no transfer wants to go to a Power 5 school if they're not a starter. So you can't really find someone that's not going to be like, hey, do you want to compete for the starting job against Gavin Wimsatt? And it's like, no, what the fuck?
No,
I'm just going to go like down the street and go to Syracuse and I'll go start tomorrow probably. Yeah. Like,
or you do the Jack Tuttle route where, you go from a part-time starter at Indiana and you become the backup at Michigan because – I could learn from some of the best coaching, and I could also possibly win a national title.
Exactly.
And if you're gonna transfer as a part-time starter, you're gonna probably go to an Alabama or Georgia or whatever because you think, okay, I'm only one snap away from actually getting into this, and I'll be on the best team in the country possibly. So
yeah.
Somebody said, "Don't do this today, guys."
I saw that. I mean, there's not a good or bad time to do it. Like it's a serious talk, like because. I know they won the game, and it's mostly behind Monangai and crazy special teams plays. But
yeah, it had nothing to do with Gavin Wimsatt, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's like almost all the scoring today, outside of Michigan State's first drive, was a direct result of like crazy circumstances leading to easy points. If you look at the muff punt for Michigan State, they got they scored on the next play. If you look at the the failed punt, we got points directly on that. The kickoff return, we got points on the next play because Kamanangai rushed for 21 yards in. Like all these points came off of turnovers, basically.
Yeah, they had 2 good drives at the beginning of each half. Everything else, especially our best drive was probably the last drive of the game.
Yeah, you guys are just
so Rutgers had 2 12-play drives to end the game. One being the Isaiah Washington touchdown, which was a beautiful pass by Gavin. So again, we're not only here to say good or bad things. We call it as we see it. Like I said earlier, Gavin made 4 or 5 of his best throws of his entire Rutgers career today. He had some absolute dimes, but he had some total stinkers too. And that's the problem is like a lot of professional athletes, they talk about what separates, the players who are elite from the players who are just good. And it comes down to consistency. Like when you're consistently playing at that level that, guys off the bench sometimes can hit in an NBA game where they'll come off and go 5 for 5 from 3, and they'll just be that heater that you need. There's a reason he's on the bench, because he can't do that every night. But Kevin Durant could do that any game, and that's why he's elite. And so if Gavin Wimsatt could make those 4 to 5 throws every single game, the narrative around him would be totally different. But he hasn't shown the ability to do that. But we could acknowledge, we see those plays and we see that the potential is there. He just can't string that together over an entire game regularly. So that's the inherent problem, is that you see these plays and it just draws you in like a tractor beam, and you're just like, oh my God, what a throw. And then the next throw, he's 10 yards over the receiver and it's going to the DB the opposite way. So that is the foundational problem. It's not that we don't like Gavin. We see the talent. We see the arm talent. We see the athleticism. We see the ability to kind of make something out of nothing, but it's not there every single play, and it's not there every single game. So that's kind of the main frustration, is you see it, but it's enough to keep that hope alive, but it's not enough to like think, okay, we're down 6 and we have the ball 4 minutes left. Gavin's got this. Like, we never feel that.
No, Manunga's got it. Yeah,
pretty much.
I mean, the good thing about it is that he has shown resiliency. That's the thing that we have to definitely give him credit for, is that he doesn't go in the tank when he makes mistakes and bad throws and interceptions and they're down early. He just keeps driving ahead and chopping. Even quarterbacks can chop, and that's what he's doing. He's just, he doesn't seem like he's fazed by the bad throws. And that's been helpful in some of these games that we've turned around late this season.
Yeah, you're right, because he had the back-to-back. Well, today he had the back-to-back interception drives, and I'm like, oh shit, maybe he doesn't have that resiliency you're talking about. But then he did bounce back. He threw a couple nice passes after that. Threw a couple darts, like Mike said before, in the second half, and totally different quarterback. I wish we saw that Gavin in the first half.
Yep,
it's just what it is. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to deal with it this season and just hope that one more off season. But look, here's the other thing about transfers, and I'm the first one. I love the transfer portal, but even though we all know it needs to be fixed, the thing is, though, is that you take a look at some of these other quarterbacks that have gone to teams this year in the transfer portal, and it hasn't necessarily all worked out. Matter of fact, there's been a lot of misses. I mean, look at the kid Armstrong, disaster at Virginia, from Virginia to North Carolina State. Even his offensive coordinator came back with him. Disaster. He gets taken out last week, and then they started a redshirt freshman, I believe. Leary hasn't looked all that great for Kentucky.
I gotta say, I did like that Armstrong kid. He was the one from not
Virginia.
Brennan, Virginia, Brennan Armstrong. I thought he was decent. And then Virginia goes out and gets, but then Virginia goes out and gets what, the Monmouth kid, and he lights it up, and it's like, all right, well, what? It's pretty solid, like.
And
it's a weird thing. Like, it either works or it doesn't. Phil Jerkovich went from Boston College with his offensive coordinator and Frank Scinetti, who we all know, to Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Shit the bed, and now he's their tight end. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, you have to pick the right guys in the transfer portal. But if you look at the top 25, I would say about 50% of the quarterbacks of top 25 teams. This is a year in, year out kind of thing at this point. Are transfer guys. Kentucky with Devin Leary, Notre Dame with Hartman, Washington State with Cam Ward, Oregon State with DJ Ugalele. I'm sure I mispronounced that name. USC, Caleb Williams, Texas, Quinn Ewers, Oregon, Bo Nix, Washington, Michael Penix. Like,
here's
half these teams have transfer quarterbacks.
One thing that all of those quarterbacks except one that you mentioned, this is their second year. And a lot of them also are very good, though. You're talking about blue chip guys so there have been a lot of and look, so anyway, the fact is that it is not a quick fix as much as everybody thinks it is. Every team is different. I've been wanting a quarterback for Shannon to pick up a transfer for years, and he hasn't done it. And I've been frustrated by that myself, but in the situation they're in right now with Surace coming in next year, I don't see a reason for it. Just let Surace battle Wimsatt next year. And I mean, don't you guys have the confidence that within the next year or two, they should be able to hand it off to Surace, and maybe he's the guy that could elevate their game and maybe Wimsatt plays better next year, and then all of a sudden it's a race for the next 3 or 4 years?
Well, yeah, in an ideal world, Surace is going to push him enough just to get him over that hump because competition makes everyone better. But I'm not sure if Surace is going to be able to take it over from him year one. But if Wimsatt struggles, I mean, rightfully so. Like I think Surace is going to. I can't see Everett Simon sticking around. Let's just put it like that too. But yeah, I think Surace is going to be a multi-year starter for Rutgers 100%. I think he's at least a 3, if not maybe 4. We'll see what happens next year, but. Also, Greg, I want to tell you, I sent you the press conference from Grace Shannon's post game, so I don't know if you want to pop that up for
Sure. Did he say?
people.
We don't know if he said anything cool or not, or
No, I think we were recording at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. I think we were recording at the same exact time, or we're live at the same exact time, I should say. But let's just go ahead and assume that we had more views than him, right?
Yeah, I'd love to hear what he has to say in general.
Yeah, I'm curious actually.
Video is still processing. Okay.
It might take a minute.
All right. In the meanwhile, let's talk more about recruiting though, because you mentioned it, Richie, last week. Big week. A lot of kids on campus. So what happened this week? What'd you think?
Well, I mean, I think everyone wants to know about a basketball recruit that was on campus today. Ace Bailey. Yeah, that guy that's committed.
The number 2 player in the country.
Joined by number 3 player in the country, joined by number 11 in 2025, joined by number 91 in 2024, joined by a couple other 3 stars, and Bryce Storch. Someone else. I keep forgetting.
No, that was it. That was the 5.
That was it. Yeah, no, that was right. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, no, in terms of football recruits, there was a couple interesting ones. Jaleel Hall is a 2024 who I think Rutgers, or 2025 who I think Rutgers has a great shot with out of Pennsylvania. Wide receiver recruit, which everyone knows they can always use new receivers. He's from Monsignor Bonner in Drexel Hill. A couple Power 5 offers for him already, but Rutgers is in there early. Kayvon Mason, a Florida running back who's kind of in a similar mold to Mononga. I think he's like 5'9", 5'10", 180, a little bit bulkier than that. This is listed 180, but if you go in his huddle, I think it's 190 now. But this is like that typical Florida kid, like Rutgers offer, but not many other Power 5s have seen him yet. And it's like, who is this kid? I don't know who he is. And all of a sudden you get the Rutgers and it's like, oh, look at that. It's Juwan Jameson again. Oh, it's Jay-Sean Benjamin. Like it's Joshua Hicks. Like these random Florida kids, they just pick up early and it's just like, damn, like these kids are really good. But I keep a close eye on him. And I know it's his first time up here, so it's definitely going to be interesting to get his thoughts on what happened in do you like the rain? Because you probably have rain down in Florida. Nothing new, right? 40-degree weather, probably not ideal for you, or whatever it was, 50-degree maybe. But other than that, Adam Shovlin, high 3-star, who I think should be a 4-star defensive end, kind of reminds me of a little bit of an Aaron Lewis type. He's tall, lengthy, 6'6", 230-ish. I've seen him so many times this offseason. He's just such a good player at St. Thomas More up in Connecticut. A couple 4-stars in Deshaun Burnett out of Pennsylvania, linebacker, and Charlandon Strange. He likes to be called Zach with Z-A-Q-Q. How you get Zach out of Charlandon? I mean, hey, I don't know, but how do you get Dick and Richard? It doesn't make sense. Like, doesn't make sense. But out of Cheltenham, Pennsylvania, too. He's been to campus quite a few times now, and Rutgers is in a really good spot there. And then probably the thing on the cake would be Renick, aka Stretch Dorilis, who is a Union DB. That's definitely not. I'm looking at his profile right now. It says 5'11", 160 or 150. That's not correct. It's like 5'11", like maybe 160, 170, maybe ish around there. Still skinny, but a really good DB out of Union. He's going to be the next one to keep an eye on out of there, especially because Rutgers has done so well with Union. I think technically they've only lost one guy, and that would be Davis Enigmosin since like 2005 out of Power.
That was a big loss. Let's just throw that out there.
Yeah, that one hurt a lot. He starts now, right, for Ohio State?
He started, for everyone who forgets, he started his career at Ole Miss. After 1 year he transferred to Ohio State, and is now the starting cornerback there. I think he's number 1 on their defense.
It's crazy. A couple younger kids too. couple New Jersey kids. Derek Zamet is a Rutgers offeree in 2026 quarterback. Someone to keep an eye on. But overall, though, it sounds like most of these days went pretty good for these kids, despite the shitty weather. I mean, it's as good as you can get pretty much when you get a win like that, too, an exciting one, too.
I wanted to ask about that. Do these kids have to sit in the open air and get rained on the whole time?
Yep.
Damn,
You can't even give them a poncho technically, legally.
Well, like these kids, they come to a visit. Maybe they didn't look at the weather forecast. They're in like some of their nicer clothes. Like, can you imagine just like, wearing like a pair of like Jordan 5s outside all day and just getting them like waterlogged? Like that's got to just like rub kids the wrong way. Even if like, it's such a good fit for them. If they're just like totally drenched, they don't have any way to get out of it. They can't go sit in like the box.
No, so
the whole recruiting pavilion's there for no reason.
Well, kind of, yeah, and that's why everyone gets pissed off. So there's a weird NCAA rule. So when it was built, that was the original intention for them to just hang out there the entire day. But there's some kind of weird rule that you're not allowed to like sit them there during games, and that's why like everyone complains during the game. They're like, "Yo, like, why is it empty all the time? This was a waste of space." Like, I get it, but like they use it all pregame long. Pregame doesn't matter. I think it's an hour before kickoff or half hour before kickoff. You see them all walk down the stairs and walk over to the sidelines, and that's strictly because they literally cannot be in there for some reason. NCAA sucks. There's no way around it. And if I'm dead tomorrow, you know who did it.
Shit. The NCAA says you can't take photo shoots on unofficial visits. You can't sit in recruiting lounges during games. But you can do anything else. They put their feet down in the weirdest stands for anything. So dumb.
Yeah, you can go get a McDonald's bag from who was that coach down at Tennessee? Who the hell was it? One of the head coach for Tennessee. Didn't he get in trouble? Was it Pruitt? Didn't one of them get in trouble for handing out McDonald's bags?
Pruitt did get in a lot of trouble. But
full cash. I forget there was someone. I forget who it was in the SEC then. They were just handing out McDonald's bags full of cash, and it was like they got like a slap on the wrist. Like they didn't get a death penalty. They didn't get anything. Like meanwhile, they're like, "Hey, you know that nice pavilion you built? Make them sit in the rain." So stupid.
All right, so I have the press
rules
conference.
are dumb. Okay.
Do you want to?
Awesome.
You want me to put it on there for you?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody would love to see that.
So you might. Who cares if we get a delay at this point?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Okay, where are we? Here we are.
And anybody else who has additional questions, please throw them in the chat, because after this press conference, we'll probably have our closing thoughts and head out for today.
All right, I'm going to put that right there. Okay, here we go. Wait, what just happened? You just hit play.
If you can't download it, it's on the YouTube page also.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to download it, see what happens here. Okay, I think it's coming through. Yep, hold on 1 second. Okay, here we go. It's 14 minutes. Let me know if you can hear it.
Okay. Yeah, I might have to up it a little bit.
Jesus, bad volume.
They kept going. It's a great
Can you?
lesson for them in life. It's a football game.
All right, there it
I've always
is.
said I think this is one of the great teachers for young people, this game. So I'll open it up.
Special teams early had some struggles, and then the fourth quarter had some big plays. Can you just talk about the resilience there and how big those plays were in winning the game?
Yeah, huge plays. We do some things that are a little bit different in our punt block and in our punt team. So we don't always know what we're going to get. So what we see and what we prepare for, sometimes they change. They change their protection. They did some things that they have not shown. But our kids, they look at that as a play that's a viable play. And they made a big one on that. And then the sky kick was a tremendous play by Thomas Amanko and a great kick by Jude. I mean, to place it where he did. razor thin. The margin for error was razor thin. So really proud of those guys.
Big point in the game was the Tyron Powell targeting in the second quarter. Can you take us through, your thoughts and just how it affected you guys, having to lose him for an entire second half?
Yeah, that's a huge loss. Tyreem's one of our elite players, and I can't, I can't comment on the call, but I'm confused. But what are you going to do? I will do the process. I always do it every week. Send the plays in, and then it's hard. Officiating's not easy. But when it goes to review, that's where it gets a little bit, then it's not so hard. So I'm a little confused, but that's life. You got to keep, again, those are all the things that our players had to keep fighting for. When you're trying to do something and you feel that maybe something was unjust, that can play on your mind. And you can't let it. You just got to keep chopping and see if the worm will turn. But I know one thing, if you lay that X down, you don't have any chance. So it doesn't guarantee if you keep going that you're going to successfully end the day, but gives you a chance.
Just the way that Kyle ran the ball today, especially in the fourth quarter. What has he meant to this team this year, especially when Sam and Aaron are still kind of getting built back up?
Well, I think what Kyle is a great example when I talk to you guys about we're a developmental program. Kyle came in here, and each year he's gotten better, and now he's a grown man. He's a mature 21-year-old, 22-year-old guy that you sit down, you have a man-to-man conversation, he goes back to the team, and he's a captain, and he communicates things. And then when you play the way he plays with the conviction that he plays the game with, people want to follow you.
Coach, how exciting is it to celebrate a big win like that, a big comeback win like that with your team?
No, it's great. Yeah, there's, people do a lot of things in life, and they're quite successful, but unless you're in that locker room, you never really know what the feeling's like. It's you'd like to be able to bottle it, but you can't. It's for a short period of time, but man, it's fun, and as much work as you do together, and much practice. You guys know I say it all the time. Practice is everything. I believe that. So as much work we put in practice and off-season training and all that stuff, to be able to have a day like today where you just kept going at it, you kept chopping and it turned your way, boy, there's a special feeling in there.
You keep speaking about chopping and just continue to go through. I want to know what was said possibly to Wimsatt after the two early first half interceptions, and then he delivers the dime ball to give you guys the lead. What was said to help keep his composure throughout the game?
Gavin's really grown up quite a bit, and there wasn't much that needed to be said. He was frustrated. He certainly didn't want to sail it over the head, right? So when that happened, but the thing that I've seen about him is how quickly he can put it behind him and chop the next moment. And that's what we talk about all the time. Each moment is its own moment. And if you live in the past, that can steal from you. And if you live in the future, that can steal from you. I thought he did a very good job of chopping the moment, and really proud of him. He's making progress.
Just a clarification point. Was the kickoff an intentional onside kick? Good break? Both?
No, it's an intentional sky kick. The onsides is boom, boom, boom. Sky is you kick it for a spot down around the numbers area. So yeah, that was very intentional. Something we practice all the time, and Jude hit it exactly where he wanted to hit it.
Hoping they recover. If your return is not ready, I guess.
Well, if it's a normal kickoff team, usually there's a tight end there. So he fair catches it or he catches it and runs it, right? But they were out with their hands team because they thought we were probably going to onside, and they only had one return deep, and he almost got to it. He was close, but I thought Thomas did a great job of, quite honestly, I wasn't watching him per se. I was watching the kick, and then all of a sudden this blur shows up in the moment, and I thought great focus and concentration to catch that ball.
Just at the end of the game, you can tell me it was the rain, but it looked like you got emotional on the sidelines maybe in that moment of victory. I'm just curious what this meant for you. It's been a long journey to get to the point where you guys are competitive and winning games like this again.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I was emotional because it was so much hard math to make. It was right on the cusp. That's why I went bananas when the clock got mixed up because we were right on the edge, but I knew we had it if we did what we did, and then all of a sudden the clock changed. So that went from okay, now we got it, which should have been right from the beginning, right? Because you turn in football, it's out there. And you got to make sure you do that clock exactly right. So after the game, it was probably as much relief, but I was really happy for our players. These kids work so hard, and for them to have the payoff, because they've certainly had their tough times. That was a really good day for them today.
Coach, you always talk about family, chop, but can you talk about the offensive line coming off the blocks, coming on the second level, and so forth and so on? Can you talk about that? Because they don't get enough talk.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting better on the offensive line. I thought it was a special moment. Reggie started today, and he's going to be super sore. But you talk about a warrior, and it's hard for me to tell you how well they did this or they did that because, I have the worst seat in the house. It just seems like a mush there. But when a back has opportunities like Kyle did, that people blocked well. So, and make no mistake about it, Michigan State's defense is really a good defense. They're second in the country in third down. They got some really big defensive linemen, which for us can be an issue. They're really big and strong, so I was pleased.
Coach, Christian Dremel finishing with 6 catches for 80 yards. What did you make of his performance and how that sort of helped out the passing game?
Yeah, Drem's been steady all year, and at times spectacular, right? He's as tough as they come. The other day he had an oversized sweatshirt on and some loose pants, and you would have said the guy was, the guy who serves you the coffee at Starbucks. I mean, you wouldn't say he was a Big Ten slot receiver who's really doing well. And we were joking with him, but he is a fighter. He's a warrior, and he's a lot faster than people think too, which really helps him. But the biggest thing that helps him is he chops like nobody else. He is special.
What went into the decision to start him?
He was playing the best. Yeah, everything is competition. Whoever who we feel gives us the best chance to win. Am I right every time? No. Is our staff right every time? That's certainly not right. But you have to play the guys that you think that this time, today, gave you the best chance to win. Can that change? Sure, it does. I mean, you've seen the rotation. We've mixed a lot of guys. That's why I think competition, I'm a big believer that competition, the cream rises to the top with the competition. So that'll continue.
Greg, what was the feeling in that fourth quarter? Could you feel the momentum start to shift?
Yeah, you really could. And oftentimes, as a coach, you're so worried about your team. Sometimes you just got to take a breath and say, well, you know what? How do they feel right now? It's slipping away from them, right? So you have to play all that into what your decisions are. I thought our guys did a very good job. Certainly the punt block touchdown gave everybody a little juice. But you still had to go have stops, and you still had to go run drives, and there's a lot of football in that fourth quarter to get it done. Especially that last drive. I think what did it start with? 7:30 maybe. In my own mind, I'm saying, boy, we could use one of those old-fashioned Ray Rice drives right now, because we had a lot of them where we would just bleed the clock and then walk out with it taking a knee, and that's just what we did. So that was gratifying.
Coach, first of all, you would know more than anybody else. Rain does funny things to a game.
Excuse me?
Rain does funny things to a game.
Yes.
This guy, when the momentum changed, you could sense from the particular defense, those guys were fired up. In your decision making, were you going to be ahead of the game, or we just let it flow as the game went on?
I think as a head coach, you always have to be ahead of the game, but you can't. Some people think you can make the game go the way you want. I've said to you many times, unfortunately, after losses, that games take on a life of their own. Well, this game took on a life of its own, and this time it was in our favor, right? And that happens. Momentum, anybody who doesn't think momentum is real, they're kind of living in a dream world. Because you watch that one today, right? We were having trouble stopping them, and all of a sudden they couldn't gain an inch. How does that happen, right? There's got to be some force there, right? And, I have my beliefs, but I was really happy for our guys.
Coach, what did you learn about this team from the first 3 quarters and just how they were able to put it together in the fourth quarter? You probably already knew about them, but what did you actually see come out today?
You think you know. Do you ever really know until they do it? No. You think you do. And that's why last week I stood at the podium and said, yeah. You know, we weren't ready to win a game like that yet. I really would not like stand here today and have to be saying it again. So I'm ultra pleased that we found a way to win that game. I think what it does, though, is any time you work really hard at something and you believe really, really strongly in something and then it works, it builds confidence in the process and it builds confidence in yourself. So I think, you know, we have a mix on our team of some older players and some really young players. And I think this is a great, great lesson for everybody, including me.
Big picture question. What does this win mean for the program as a whole? 5-2, your fourth year, 5 games left, close to it, things like that.
Yeah, you know, I know everybody thinks, here he goes with his coach speak, right? But I'm not kidding you. Like, somebody saw me today who hasn't seen me in a while. He said, boy, you look like crap. You know, my eyes were puffy. I mean, I haven't slept enough, and I can't wait to go to bed tonight. But you put so much into every week that I don't think I can do it any other way than 1-0 or 0-1 at the end of that season. Then you have a fresh season. If you win, you got to get back to work, right, and get out of your own, you know, oh, we won. And if you lose, you got to get out of your feelings and get back to work because we got to go win the next one. And that's the way I'm going to keep it. That's the way our team's going to keep it. No one's naive. Everybody knows what's at stake, right? So I mean, it's not lost on anybody. But to me, I'm not wired that way, and I try to make our program follow that same kind of train of thought. Is that each week is its own season, and that's why I celebrate when we win, and I mourn it when we lose, because you put so much into it.
The celebration after you take the relief of the game ending and you're seeing your team celebrating on the field, jumping around. I mean, this might be hard to quantify, but where does this rank among, you know, the wins, the moments you've had here at Rutgers? It has to, imagine, be up there for you.
Yeah, we've had a lot of great moments, right? I mean, there's been some really great moments. There's some really tough ones. This one was certainly, in what we're trying to build, I think it was a critical it backed it up for the players. And they worked so hard, and then it affirmed what they're doing. So it's one game. It's over now, right? We're 1-0. We'll enjoy it tonight and then get back to work and start on the Indiana season tomorrow. But, yeah, it's good. It's really good for our guys to have us, and appreciate you guys sticking around too. All right, thanks.
All right.
That was long.
Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you win.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how much Shiano actually likes talking to the media when he has a win and a big win at that, and a disappointing loss. So if you've ever watched a Shiano post game, it's usually about 7 minutes. Everyone gets a very specific amount of questions, and they quickly shut it down as soon as they possibly can with a all right, thanks guys, appreciate you covering the squad or whatever. And this one, you seemed like you just let everybody ask as many questions as they had.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting in the end, especially because they asked him about how much this win means to him. And I think specifically because if you saw him after the game, he almost looked like, I'm not going to lie, it looked like he was tearing up.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like he was like tears of joy type moment. Like, this is, wow, holy shit, I'm actually turning him around. Like, I got there. I'm here almost. Like, I know it's not a full turnaround. It's still a long way to go, but it's a hell of a start. I mean, year 4, 5 wins, probably 6 next week, ideally. So it's yeah, I feel like it was just that moment kind of just hit him today a little bit.
Who somebody said something about a player starting this week. Who was that player? There was that question about? It's towards the end of the interview.
I believe I can tell you right now.
He said something about maybe it was Sutton.
It had to be probably Ian Strong if I had to guess.
Yeah,
or Sutton. Yeah, it had to be Sutton because I even asked around like just for my own knowledge before, and I told Mike this too. I asked around practice on Tuesday, Wednesday, and I was like, hey, like you guys like think like Sutton, like I know he played a lot last week. Like is there a chance like he actually starts? And they're like, I don't know, man. Like I'll admit, like and this is word of mouth from someone, but they're like, I don't know, like I was wrong. I'll eat crow, and I'll have to eat crow too because I was using this guy a little bit as a source. But yeah, I didn't see Reggie Sutton ever like contributing at this kind of level again, let alone starting.
Yeah.
And they didn't even think he was going to start this week. They said, we might have to save him a little bit for either the first half or second half, depending on. I don't think he can go a full game. And the man went through a full game. So it's like, holy shit. Like,
it's awesome.
Hell of a game for him, though, man. He tooth and nail. And you see him. He's not fully healthy out there either. But even a not fully healthy Sutton is better than more than majority of these linemen that they have.
And if that doesn't motivate you.
Any kid who fights as hard as he has, and for those of you who don't know and who haven't, I've heard from you from, what you've heard, and also like the article Politi, I think, put out, or somebody at NJ.com put out about his recovery, where he wasn't just like working back from an injury. He was working back to remove his knee 1 degree at a time. And the amount of effort he had to go through just to get like a limited amount of flexibility in his knee. Like, I think Shiano has talked about this, just like when guys would go in for treatment after games or after practice, you would hear Reggie Sutton screaming at the top of his lungs because he was in that much pain going through treatment, going through rehab on the other side of the wall. So you're hearing this guy literally just in agony constantly. There's not an easier guy to root for on this team other than Reggie Sutton. I love that guy. I love that he's actually playing. It really broke my heart when he went down early in the game. I was so happy to see him go back in because I was like, oh my God, like, is this guy going to be hurt again now? Like, I'm just so happy for him. Like, guys like that in life in general, like, he's a winner. Regardless of if he has an athletic career moving forward, he's going to succeed at whatever he puts his mind to.
Yeah.
Indiana line. What do you think?
Ooh. Away game, so you got to give them a little advantage.
It's going to be smaller than you'd probably expect. I think it's going to be in the Vegas zone between 3 and 6. If I had to guess, I'm going to say the line probably opens up at Rutgers as a 4.5-point favorite. And those lines, for those of you who want to catch these lines early, look late tonight, early Sunday morning, because that is the best time to get a line. I got the Rutgers
Michigan, right?
Michigan State line at -3. I somehow snuck out a push. Should have been a cover, but unfortunately, we missed that extra point. And I talked about it. This is going to be a game where you're going to see a lot of weird things happen, missed extra points, blah, blah, blah. But if you want a great line and you have a really good feeling about a game, especially about a team that you follow religiously, look early Sunday morning. I can't stress that enough. Get that number while it's really juicy because you typically will know more than Vegas, regardless of what you think. Vegas is really good at, putting out good lines, but they get there eventually. It's not that they come out with them initially as really good lines.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. There's really nothing else there. It's got to be 4.5, maybe 5, but 4.5 seems about right. It should be 7, but I'm thinking just because Indiana home game, they're gonna go down a little bit in points. Yep. So, yeah, I think 4.5 is pretty spot on. I don't think there's much better line there. But like you said, it's probably going to change relatively quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll take 6. I think they'll. It almost got to 6 with Michigan State by the end of the week, and Indiana's just so bad. And really, if you think about it,
it's true.
The fact that we would only be favored by between 4.5 and 6 is against Indiana just tells you where we're at. So,
there's just this. It's like a Rutgers stigma in terms of betting lines, where we're just going to get at least a 3-point lower line than it should be every week the rest of the season, the whole season in general. Because if you look at like Indiana, if you just look at their schedule and what the scores of their games are, it's shocking. Like they lost today at Michigan 52-7. Last week they lost at Maryland 44-17. It took them 4 overtimes to beat Akron, who had 1 win last year. They lost to Louisville, who's better than you would have expected based on early returns. They beat Indiana State, an FCS team, 41-7. And then in one of the strangest results of the season, they only lost to Ohio State by 20 points opening weekend, 23-3. But when you're breaking in a new quarterback, like Ohio State was, and you lost so much talent.
Mhm.
I guess you could excuse that game for that reason, but
Yeah.
I can't blow this.
I got nothing else to say.
Coming off this game, it was the best win. I mean, we said it earlier in the season that we hadn't seen them react in the way that they did in those 2 games where they have the lead, team comes back, making it close. Are they going to crumble? Boom, touchdown drive, first game. Boom, touchdown drive, second game. They're showing us something that we haven't seen in a while. Today showed us something we haven't seen in a while. So we're getting all these, and 5-0 at home, 1 game away from bowl eligibility. You just can't let this momentum stop now, because it's going to stop in a couple of weeks. So you better make sure it doesn't stop now. Go into that bye feeling awfully good about yourself. You got the bowl wrapped up. You got a couple of wins going in. Boy, that's just going to be what a motivating factor that should be for that game on Saturday. To just know that you're going to go into the bye with bowl eligibility.
Oh, yeah.
So,
and that sets up an incredible opportunity. Say Rutgers does clinch bowl eligibility. They're 6-2. Ohio State's probably going to be 8-0 after playing Wisconsin next week. That is a huge environment for Rutgers. Like, that is going to be one of the hottest tickets that Rutgers has had in a long time. You just got to hope weather holds up, because if it rains again, it's going to be a similar crowd to today. But if it doesn't rain, man, I mean, Ohio State fans travel well, but that is going to be a very difficult ticket to get on November 4th.
Yeah, 100%.
And considering there is no CJ Stroud, it's one of those games that Rutgers could possibly go into the second half not being blown out. So I'm not saying they're winning the game. I'm just saying that they could.
Kyle McCord has been so mediocre this whole season. I'm not impressed by him whatsoever.
Just put longer beam on Harrison.
The end of the game drive he had against Notre Dame was nice, but overall in the season, when you have seen what they've been producing at quarterback at Ohio State since forever. I mean, he's just very far below what the expectation is. Yeah.
So that's what we'll hope for. But like Coach said, we got Indiana season on Saturday, and we got to take care of that first. So let's hope we can do that. I want to thank everybody.
2 more donations.
Yeah. We got a couple more donations before we head out here.
Yeah, okay. Matt Werblin donated for the 3rd time today. Great job, guys. Looking forward to next week. And then also, Matt going off today in the chat. And then George Forbes, thanks for the donation, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We'll be back again next week, and then we'll have our week off before the Ohio State game. But we're going to do it again next week. And we're going to hope that we'll all talk again next week. We'll be talking about bowl eligibility. That'd be nice. What was the last bowl?
Would be
the last bowl we've reached with
technically Gator Bowl
required amount of wins has been since 2014. But we did go to a bowl game in 2021, but that was only because COVID knocked Texas A&M out of it, which is the Gator Bowl when we played Wake Forest.
Yeah, that's definitely an asterisk.
Yeah,
that don't count. Wow, 2014. Okay, man. Well,
hang the banner.
Next week it is. Thanks, guys. Good to see you again. And then your next show Tuesday.
Appreciate y'all
on the channel.
Yeah, probably if I had to guess.
Yeah, probably Tuesday. A lot of recruiting updates because there's a big official visit weekend for basketball. A lot of kids were on campus for this game.
That one.
We can get some comments other than how the weather was. What's on tap for this basketball recruiting weekend next? Do they just go out tonight?
They do. Yeah.
It's dinner.
I know they do a couple things. Basketball is a little different than football. So football takes you to New York City and you do the whole 9 yards there. basketball from recently, I don't know if this is going to be the same as recent official visits, but recently they've went to both Topgolf and Supercharged, because Supercharged is now the new thing down the road with that. I think it's like the world's largest indoor go-kart place or whatever. So that's pretty cool. And then usually they'll go out at night with the kids will go out with their hosts and go hang out around college and experience college. And the parents usually go to like probably Steakhouse 85 or one of those nice restaurants over there. There's a lot of new ones now too, since like you can go to Salt's or not Salt. What's that one in the corner? I can't think of it, but it's some seafood place. So they usually take them around there and stuff like that. But well, I'm not really sure what they're going to do next. But I'm sure if you follow them on Instagram, they love to post everything they do. So just if you don't follow them, just go follow us on Rutgers Rivals, and you'll probably see us posting a bunch of stuff over the next 24 or 48 hours.
And college basketball preview show?
Ooh,
When's that gonna
it
be?
is coming up. We got, 3 weeks now? I don't know. We can make that work. We got a Rutgers basketball preview. We got 1, 2, 3 weeks and 2 days. So it's coming up. It's coming up quick. Cousins. Yes, that was the place. That was a seafood restaurant I was thinking of. Cousins Seafood. Yes. I wanted to say Salt for some reason. I don't know why, but that's also a good seafood restaurant. Or that might be a steak restaurant. I don't know. I'm confusing everything. It's been too long. We got to sign off.
We're on the air too long. All right, guys. Appreciate it.